I've asked the LLM, well, my brain controller and research and coding agent to create a game. And, I spoke into it and said create a Robotech game, and I don't know what it meant to it. But it did implement a 2D pie game, and it looks like went through a coding loop, a couple of coding loops with QA and a critic. Looks like it was trying to create a PNG file, which it did not create. Installed a bunch of stuff and ran syntax checking, passed that in the virtual environment, but then the execution failed for the virtual environment. And it looks like it doesn't know what Robotech is, but it looks like the game is a swapping virtual numbers, and then it encountered an error. So in this I have it going through a testing loop and then kind of running through, it's not finding Pygame, so it should have installed Pygame, which it did in the virtual environment. And here's the code. Obviously made up some of these WAV files and PNGs. And of course I can go create another agent that can go create those things. So, and actually I could dynamically create agents with this code just as it is. And because it's saving to a file, I can reuse those anytime I want. Like right now I have, 51 functions, and I've gotten to the point of just asking my code to go create whatever function you want in a relative narrow scope, so it just doesn't eat up my processor. But you can see here, it's created this agent. There's some kind of game. It loops. Added error handling. Remember to replace and it told me to remember to replace these files, which I will go and obviously create a function that creates these. And that's why you don't see anything on the screen, because it created all this stuff. Well, it was like dice roll. Yeah, it's pretty intricate what it came up with. I'm pretty impressed. And the back and forth, and here I can modify that, so I can put in voice input and modify the end result. So anyway, there's a Pygame window that opens up. I didn't have Pygame installed, so it did that in the virtual environment. Pretty impressed with what I'm doing so far with just me as a singular developer, when I'm sure that there's the companies with tens of hundreds of developers doing the same thing. So I can't imagine what they'll come up with in the near future. But I'm pretty impressed that it came up with this solution. And let me stop running this. So also, again, very impressed. It doesn't look like it was able to stop the Pygame window. I'm gonna have to go in and stop it myself. But let's look at the code that it wrote. And what I'm doing now is I'm saying that if there's some kind of generated code, go ahead and just output that code, as well as any kind of other files that are generated, output other files, etc. I think I showed that in a previous video. But here is the code. Now, does this work? Obviously, we have to get some of these PNGs put in. Pretty sure the code will work because it does compile, and the test passed. It didn't throw any errors. My testing agent created a bunch of tests. And, sorry, I have a slight cold. But yeah, cool. I think this is a one step in many steps to get to the point of essentially autonomous coding and research. So I'm going to take this to the next level and do deep research on a topic, and then pass that to my chat workflow, which will iterate over a number of steps that it decides, and then using the coding agent will write code when it decides to, and test when it decides to, QA when it decides to, as well as handle business objectives in various agents. So that's where we are right now. I think this is an amazing place to be. One of my favorite YouTubers always says, I think it's 2 Minute Paper, says, "What a time to be alive." I don't want to steal his work, but man, what a time to be alive. It's nuts that we can, me in my spare time while laid up with my knee injury, was able to build this in roughly 6 days of off and on work over the last couple months. And I'm using this in robotics applications. If those of you that are still here are interested in where I'm using this is to research each part on a robot and tell exactly the weights and dimensions, densities, inertial forces, torques, whatever it might be from a robotic part. So if you have like an actuator, you can just do research to figure out, okay, what is it? What are its true properties? What are the limits to its movement? And I can then just throw those numbers into my equation, and be far further ahead in designing and developing a robot than I would be otherwise. You can do the same thing in car manufacturing, et cetera. So those of you who are still here, you're going to get a sneak peek into how this all works. Some of this is hard code that I need to go ahead and kind of redo. But essentially what I do is I'm chatting using this brain, and it has a bunch of abilities, like it can process chat, it can process code and control the screen, execute functions, and in it, these are the edges and nodes that it builds up. It could also, speak with me in voice or chat. And here's an example. I'll just run one right now. Create a USD file ingestion app. Oh, create a USD file. My chat is, I think it's set to like 8 seconds, and I thought for 4, so that's not good enough. It might come back and say I can't create a USD file. That might make some sense. But what it's doing is it's going through a code creation workflow, and because I said the word create, and so probably thought it was going to create some kind of code. Then it goes off and creates a cube. That's cool. USD file, and with some colors. Still going off doing some stuff. And it also pulls back all the tools that it has access to. And it's like, okay, can I create a USD file with these tools? No. Then let me go ahead and do some type of coding response. Yeah, very interesting. So it doesn't look like it put that USD file into into my AI generated code, because I limited to the kinds of files that it could create. I think to like Python, HTML, JS, and CSS. I'll think of my limits. But I can also just add that in here, my coding agent, right now, just as a general exercise, just to, what I wanted to do was just make sure it wasn't creating files willy-nilly, like it started creating shell script files and all kinds of others. And I want to give this thing some kind of limit. Like, I don't want it to be like, go ahead and build whatever it is you want to build all the time. But if you look at this USD file, it's actually fairly accurate. Obviously it's got all these other things that it could do. And I wonder if it added this to my list of functions. It shouldn't have. Generate code failed virtually. Okay, yeah, it failed the test, so it didn't create any files. That's good. Because it's not one of those file types. And then so if you look at the full output, it did create a bunch of materials. Oh yeah, yeah, that's a file. I can probably run this in Isaac Sim and in Omniverse and see, or OpenUSD, and see if it actually creates a file. Okay, well, I think this is pretty long of a video, but my coding assistant is done with some hard coding modifications that I think I'm going to optimize this code. And I'm going to essentially use the various coding assistants to help me optimize this code. But yeah, it's done. It's able to control the screen. It's able to control the browser. It's able to take audible commands, output results. Yeah. I'm going to work on it obviously continuously for, as long as it needs. But I think this is a great place to stop and call this built. What I'm going to do is clean this up a bit and then post the code so you all be able to play with it the same way. Thanks.